So hey, everybody, my name is Sven. I'm from Deutsche Telekom T-Systems, which is the corporate brand of Deutsche Telekom. We cater to 400 multinational corporations, mainly in Germany, and they reach all over the world. We have 20 local business units all over the planet. And today I'm not talking about our business or our products, so don't worry, you can stay. I talk about artificial intelligence and the future of marketing. And of course, this is something like a trick, because I'm a marketing guy, so of course I talk about marketing, but in the end, if we talk about artificial intelligence, it's about everything. I mean, it's about the future that we all will live through in our society and in almost every sector. So I'm going to take you for a little ride. And it's going to be a ride because I have way too many slides, as you are probably used to by these keynotes. So I'm going to be really fast on some points. If you have questions, I will try to spare some time at the end, so we can discuss maybe a little bit. So if you see something which doesn't fit, or if you have a question, just write it down or keep it in your mind, and we can go into that later on. So I start with what marketers think today. Then we go a little bit into the state of AI as of today, which is really developing fast. Then we talk about AI in marketing. How is it used? What do people do? And then I think it's worth the time to dive a little bit into the target groups we're talking about, because this will change a lot in the future. And then of course, the interesting thing is the takeover, what will happen, and then as you have to do it in a speech of artificial intelligence, it's of course the end of the world, but only as we know it. So don't worry, it's going to be nice. State of marketing as today is just two small slides what marketeers think. And they were asked last summer, what do you want to do in your business next year, so as of 2017? And which trends in digital marketing will come up, and I don't want to read them to you. You can go through yourself, and you will notice the word or the concept artificial intelligence is not on this slide. So obviously it's not a topic for them, but on the other hand side, of course, they do something. So which of these activities will rise in the next 12 months, and then you see the usual subjects. It's content marketing, it's social media, it's search engine optimization, and so on and so on. And again, there's no artificial intelligence on this chart. So do marketers not think about AI in the future? Well, of course they do. It's something hidden in there, and we will see that later on. But while they think and plan, other things happen. If you look into the media, and this is like from fall of last year, but I think it's every day in the media, then artificial intelligence is a topic of everyday media. So it's in almost every areas, and there are some real cool guys, like the guy with the cap, Professor Schmidhuber, who thinks that in like a few decades we will have robot fabrics in the asteroid belt around the globe, and they will dive off into the universe, because most of the resources, of course, are out of this planet, and so they will leave humanity alone on our small biosphere and take over the universe. We don't know yet, but of course, it's a big change going to happen, and so many people feel to be disrupted. And it's always a question, are we really disrupted now, or is it a disruptive technology, or is it just a matter of perceiving change, and maybe a change that happens a little bit faster than we are used to in the future. And take a little example. If you talk about AI today, then most people immediately think of conscious machines. But we're not talking about consciousness in the end. We talk about a technology, and it's really cold metal and algorithms, and they just do what they are programmed for. And of course, it may have interesting outcomes, but there's no conscious thinking process involved. So if you take the example, you tell your car, please take me home, then it just goes to an algorithm which knows the address which is connected to the word home and takes you there probably. It's not the same as if I would know anybody here in the audience and ask him, can you take me home? This is completely different set of mind operations going on there. So what are we talking about? It's a little bit of marketing, of course. It's about AI, it's technology, it's interdependent with society, and of course, in the end, we talk about the future. And the problem is always, if you talk about the future, then you never really know what the future will bring, because the future is uncertain. maybe you have a plan for tonight, but you cannot know if it will happen until you're there. So it's just this second that you can be aware of, and everything else is uncertain. But whatever the future will bring in terms of AI in our society, the change will be massive. So maybe there's this disruption feeling again. So if we talk about AI, and I'm going to do it pretty fast, then it all began somehow with John McCarthy. He more or less coined the term artificial intelligence. He did an application for a conference, the Dartmouth conference, where he wanted to go into the topic with fellow scientists. And so his concern was to simulate the things that humans do with their minds with machines. So it's a simulation of human intelligence in the end. And he was complaining in the later years all the time that artificial intelligence comes up everywhere, but as soon as it is implemented, nobody calls it AI anymore. And we will see this in a few moments. There are a lot of people who were concerned with AI, thousands of them. I just brought a randomly very subjective selection here. I think if you want to go deeper into the topic by yourself, if you haven't done so yet, then I would suggest start with Alan Turing. In my view, he's somehow the godfather of AI, and still, as of today, these machines that try to trick humans into thinking they are humans, it's still called the Turing test, and these machines are still called Turing machines. And then you have Ray Kurzweil. Probably most of you know him. He's the chief technologist of Google today. He made some famous inventions, some famous projections into the future, which came out to be true, most of them. So people tend to believe him, and he says, yeah, you're going to upload your brain into the cloud in a few decades, and then you live forever. And this is probably his aim in life. So he's very enthusiastic about the concept of AI. And then on the other hand side, you have Nick Bostrom, not quite that famous, but also very well known. And he's more the dystopian kind of scientist here. He's say, yeah, AI is a great invention. It's probably our last one, because it will kill us as a species. And then there's Tim Urban, and he's not really an AI scientist, but I think he's worth mentioning here. And if you want to go deeper into the topic, then please don't miss out on his really great essay, The Road to Artificial Superintelligence by Tim Urban, and you can read it for free on his blog, Wait But Why. I'm going deeper into Tim Urban later on. If you talk about artificial intelligence today, then there are all these three kinds of artificial intelligence. It's ANI, the narrow intelligence, which you have on your smartphone, which you use every time you use your smartphone. It's probably some kind of AI application. It's this narrow intelligence. And famous narrow intelligence are, for example, the AlphaGo algorithm that beat the Go champions last year and this year again, and they already beat poker champions. So in almost every case where AI is employed into a narrow field of intelligence, it's going to smash the world that was there before. And then we have this artificial general intelligence, which is more or less everyone here in the room, like you and me. It's what we call artificial general intelligence, a system that is as intelligent as a human person, the average human person. And then, of course, we have the exponential road up to super intelligence, a system that knows everything, which knows an answer to every question. And the moment this is achieved, more or less, we live in a world of abundance, which is the singularity theory of Ray Kurzweil in the end. Because if you have an answer to every question you can pose, then probably you have machines like molecular generators, and you can push a button and have everything you want in a second or something like that. So this is just the concept and the fantasy behind that. If you go into Tim Urban's essay, then I think he made some nice drawings which really give a good impression on what comes up. Because today we have AI on a very simple level. It's this narrow intelligence, and maybe it's comparable to the intelligence of an ant or a bird, or maybe it's also already a little ape. And of course, we have a condescending look on it. If we talk to a chatbot and he gives no meaningful answers, then we are kind of, okay, well, that's nothing really interesting. But we are often misled into what it will lead to. Because if humans, as serial chronological beings, look into the future, if I ask you what will happen in 10 years, most of the time then you look back what happened 10 years before, and you try to project your experience into the future, which leads to a straight line like this. But technological progress is exponential like this, and so you see, depending on which point in time you set, you may be very, very wrong in your assumptions on the future. It's just an example. There's a more intelligent view here by Ray Kurzweil, and yes, you can see he projects like artificial general intelligence around 2040, or at least then we are on the way to artificial superintelligence, a system that is way, way more intelligent than any human being. Think of a very intelligent human being with an IQ of 150, and then the ASI system will be like an IQ of 50,000, so it's no comparison anymore. So Tim Urban says, haha, we as human beings, somewhere between very intelligent persons like Einstein and maybe the dumb human, somewhere in the middle, every one of us is suited. So we look down on AI today, forgetting the exponential curve, and this is what someday might happen if we don't get deeper into the topic and if we don't try to influence what will happen in this area. So I think it's really important not to have this surprise effect, but to be prepared. And this is the reason why I'm talking about this, to get a wider audience into AI and also influencing what will happen. So what's going on in marketing? At first, how does it work? It's more or less a simulation of the brain. We have nodes, we have an input system and an output system, and these blue balls, they are comparable to neurons in our brains. And if you have more complex technical systems, then you have more layers of neurons, and the more layers you have, the more complex your operations can get. So in the end, we talk about machine learning, and it's a process that it's done almost as we do. So you give a problem to the machine, you give a set of data, and the machine fills the neuron connections and finds out what goes right and what goes wrong. So it's a trial and error process, and it learns. And the machine learns very, very fast, 24/7 each day, 365 days a year. So even the most primitive systems set on a very singular problem will reach human level very soon, and then, of course, surpass it. So if we look at ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, today, then we have it on smartphones all the time, like this example here. If you call an Uber or if you call a MyTaxi, then it's just a connection of existing systems with algorithms connected to the geodata of a car and your own site, and then just a probabilistic curve on when the car will arrive, depending on traffic information and stuff. So it's really no big deal, but it's also artificial intelligence. The same thing with Google. Probably you use RankBrain a few times every day. It's artificial intelligence. Nobody calls it this way. It's just the search engine. Or the same is with programmatic advertising. If you are a marketer and today and you spend money on media, then probably you do it in a programmatic way, so which means you follow algorithms that tell you your target group is probably on this and this site at this or this time and place. And if you enter these and these keywords, then you get certain results. And so what comes out is that people who watch Zeit online, they get an advertisement of Rolex. And if you go into the Berliner Morgenpost, then you get the Berliner Sparkasse. It's kind of programmatic algorithm behind that. Or if you look for mid-century furniture, for example, then you get advertising about teak wood, because somehow the algorithm knows that mid-century furniture is often done with teak wood, and so you get this garden equipment advertising, which of course you don't want to have, and which gives you the impression that this is all kind of stupid. It will get better in the future, I promise. The famous collaborative filtering by Amazon, we know it for almost 2 decades now. It was one of the first implications or implementations of AI in advertising or in selling process. I really love the content creation part, especially with headlines. If you look at very successful sites like BuzzFeed, for example, they have these clickbait headlines like, you won't believe what happened after he opened that door. And of course, we all want to know what happened after that. So if you want to have fun and you are bored, then just enter into your search engine, you won't believe. And then a lot of funny stuff will come up. A lot of this headline stuff is done automatically by systems and not by humans. As marketeers, you usually use marketing automation systems like the Oracle Marketing Cloud, the Adobe Marketing Cloud, or maybe it's Salesforce or Sprinkler. And all these systems give you some kind of dashboard, and behind this dashboard and the nurturing process, there are a lot of algorithms, and this is more or less an implementation of AI for everyday marketing purposes. What will come up? And this is going to be really fascinating. What will come up is is a deeper understanding of what we do. Now we have good speech recognition already. If you talk into your smartphone with Google Translate, for example, it's pretty good. Even if you are mumbling in a dialect, the system usually gets what you are saying, but it does not really get what you are saying in terms of meaning. So the next thing is to teach intelligent systems, if they see a picture like the one on the left side, that the system knows, okay, this sum of pixels resembles a cat. And if you go deeper in the philosophical meaning, like Matisse did, then you will see, no, it's not a cat, it's actually the picture of a cat. Maybe you remember ceci, n'est pas un pipe. The next thing then is motion, which is a little bit more complex because it changes all the time. So the computer has to find out what this pixel color means, and this pixel color and the movements. Okay, thanks. So this is the next thing, and of course the killer application right now, we are in the middle of it, or maybe still the beginning, but it feels like the middle for us, because we look back and look forth. It's chatbots. There will be chatbots everywhere. We have them in thousands of forms all over the place right now. We as ST Systems are implementing chatbots for our customers. We do 2 for ourselves in the course of this year. And a chatbot, maybe some of you already experienced, is the Messenger, the Facebook Messenger. Anyone here used this already? A chatbot on the Messenger? Okay. If you go into Skype, you get a selection of chatbots, so if you're bored, you can talk to a chatbot anytime. The interesting thing is, if you look at now the audiences this is created for, then it gets really interesting, because most of us are a little bit maybe too old to talk competently about this. Who in this room is born before 1990? Except for me. Oh, thanks, I'm not alone. So we are all dinosaurs. Who's born before 2000 and between 1990 and 2000? Okay, you're the old-fashioned guys, and come up to Generation Z, which are the newbies right now. If you look at consumption today, then we see that young people in Germany, they perceive smartphones, high-level notebooks and stuff as status symbols, very important, more important than a car, you know that already. But what is really interesting is these are indispensable elements of everyday life. Yeah. Think about that, indispensable. It's not possible to live without them. If you have children, if you have a teenager and you go on holiday and there is no Wi-Fi at the site you're going to be in trouble. Or if you want to do something really harsh, just take away the smartphone. And now this is interesting, because now we are talking about Neuralink, so connecting the brain with an artificial system, intelligent system. This is something like take away the smartphone. It's like cutting the Neuralink, because you're not connected anymore, and this is really a harsh thing. Then this is real versus virtual thing that we have today. A lot of time is spent in virtual reality, maybe it's very basic. You just spend time on a social network, which is time spent in a parallel world to your surroundings, which is also real. So there's a blurry line between real and virtual, and this will blur much more in the future when you really go into these things also at work, like in this picture here. And then, of course, we have this thing of ubiquity and immediacy, very hard for human beings. Sometimes you get lost on the internet searching for something, and you get taken away by a lot of stuff you find and you find interesting. This is because systems are intelligent and they know who you are and what you find interesting, and so they offer a lot. So it's really hard to get a time management on that. And if we look at now how humanity changes, then of course there's this constant flow of generations. And after the dinosaurs, we have the generation Y. And this is a typical photo of a university lecturer with generation Y, people sitting there. So everyone is going into their notebooks, and of course they have to have an apple on the cover. And if you go a little bit later on, then you have the generation Z, born after 2000. These are the teenagers as of today, here called screen agers. And this is a very typical situation. And maybe the guy on the right is chatting with the girl with the baseball cap. We don't know, but maybe so. Anyone here has a teenager at home? Do they receive instant messages on WhatsApp? Do you know how many they receive in an hour? Probably. Too many. Yeah, I made the experience that once in the evening when we took away the smartphone to make the guy go to sleep, that was summing all the time. And so at some point I looked on it, and he received over 1,000 WhatsApp direct messages in 1 hour. This is of course because of groups. So you send hey into the group and you get 30 heys back. Yeah, so there's 1,000, maybe it's not that much, but it's unbelievable for people like me. So the natural enemies of this is, of course, the waiting sun. If you have to wait for stuff, this is really a torturing experience. And they have the same mantras connected to this torturing experience with the waiting sun. They want everything immediately. They want to have it very speedy. It has to be fast, instantaneous. Of course, it's always mobile and multi-channel. So connectivity is one of the most important things, and they have usual character traits they share with each other. They are the first generation really born in a digital age. They're first ones, so mobile internet was there all the time. There's no word in the experience of mine which has no mobile internet, so things have to be there fast. And now they are not sending letters, they're not even sending emails, not even sending electronic letters. It's all instantaneous. They don't use the telephone, they rather talk a voice message into the WhatsApp and send it. So it's a real interesting mixture between asynchronous and synchronous communication. There's much less direct communication, much less respect of traditional hierarchy. So it's really a different target group. And if you cater your offer to this target group as a marketing person, then you have to be aware of that. Otherwise, your communication will just not hit the goal. They use images and films and snack media, and also interesting thing I experienced myself when our eldest son was applying for a summer job. He wrote an application, sent it out, and did not receive an answer within like 6 hours. So he sent a WhatsApp saying, hello. I mean, it's an interesting communication behavior with an employer, but, well, they do it. But still, they have the same longings as every human being does. They want to be recognized, they want to be taken serious, they want to be helped, so they are not into this marketing game of being a target group and getting special information just in order to get to buy something. So it all has to be very authentic. This is very important. And of course, simple. They don't spend time figuring out how stuff works. In my generation, I mean, if I look at myself and you you present me an app, then I will probably try to find out how it works, even if it's not really self-explanatory. I will maybe spend some minutes trying to figure out and make it work. They won't. If it doesn't work in like 10 or 20 seconds, they just throw it away. It's deleted faster than you can think. So you have to develop really, really fast. So now talk about the takeover. Interesting thing, we know this already, but commerce always is conversation. I have to look at my schedule and see how many time we have. Commerce is conversation, and therefore this dialogue component of social media becomes more and more important, and the chatbot becomes very important. So, I mean, as marketers, we say this for years, but in the future, beginning today, now, began last week, customer interaction will really be a strategic focal point, because customer interaction will happen really, really fast, randomly, very virtual, and you have to be there at the point of the interaction, or you are gone in a second. So the customer contact itself will be a core business in most B2C serving companies. And we are a B2B company, but of course it's very interesting for us what our customers do with their end consumers. So we have to take care on being at the point of technology right now in order to be able to cater to their needs. The interesting thing, if you look into the future, is the conclusion that if we have chatbots right now and they will evolve and getting better and better, then in the future every customer contact, every first customer contact at least, will start with a virtual assistant, so with a bot. So if you want to communicate with your target group, maybe the first thing you run into is an artificial intelligence system. And the bad news is it's going to be one assistant. So this one assistant is personalized, it's device independent, it lives in the cloud, so to speak, and of course it has APIs to every ecosystem which is needed. So which artificial intelligence agent, which virtual assistant will it be? These are the ones that we know already. Does anyone know how the one is called that comes with the new Samsung 8? It's Bixby, somebody said it, yeah. So it's not Viv, it was supposed to be Viv, but it's Bixby. Anyhow, it's a virtual assistant, and all these ecosystems, of course, now they are spending a lot of money and trying to figure out how they can make their assistants more powerful and more useful in the future, hoping that some of them will make it to be a personal one. Because in the end, I don't want to run into all these company assistants and ecosystems. In the end, I want to have my own, which is really like an extension of myself in the virtual world, and who does all the things for me. So what does a virtual assistant do? He's doing all the kinds of stuff which he can do on the net. Today, if you look at it, then it's already, of course, search. I mean, we search all the time. Wonder what we did like 10 years ago when there was no mobile search. Location information, how can I get to Tempodrom in Berlin, of course. Then how's the weather, what should I wear, how's the traffic, how long will it take me to get there, routes and times, all kinds of random information if you want to know something. Shopping and payment coming up, but tomorrow, the systems will become much more complex. And if you look at this car, it was presented at CES, Las Vegas, 1.5 years ago. This is a small data center on wheels, takes you self-driving to any location, and it makes real severe decisions. If you think about this typical dilemma situation, which is coming into discussions all the time. I think it was a result of a council working on this coming out yesterday, how self-driving cars should be regulated. And of course, always this dilemma situation is coming up. The car is running on the street, and then an accident happens, and then the car must decide, will I run over the mother with her young toddler, the granny, or will I kill the people who are in the car itself? So this is going to be an accidental situation, and a human being would just do whatever he or she could do in some fractions of a second. An artificial intelligence system, which is based on processor speed, of course, has much more time, because when you think about how many thoughts you can have in half a second, for example, until you have to react, it's much less than an artificial intelligence system can have, working with maybe some very powerful core processors, making 10 billion operations in a second. And so maybe for an electronic system, the time that we have stretches, so they can think, can operate so many options within this short period of time, which we could not ever do. So this makes a situation like this seem to be in a very different light. In the end, it may come out with a dilemma, and you cannot decide. So the subtle things, or the most things which will happen, is that we live in an environment of more or less living services, which means that you enter always in every minute a room which is catered to your needs, more or less. So the systems around you know what you want, who you are, what you need next time. If you go to an airport, probably the system knows your calendar, knows who you are, where you are going. You probably won't need any electronic ticket information and stuff. Maybe you wouldn't even need a security pass, because you are on surveillance all the time. This is what we have today. It's all the time possible to hear what we say, because we all have these nice little gadgets here who have like 20 different sensors built into them, and they are sending all the time. So even if I have it in flight mode now, it's possible to get to the microphone and find out what we are talking about in this room. And it's even possible today with the gyro sensor, if I make movements with this, there's university research done that they can find out if I enter a pin, which pin I enter, just by researching how the gyro sensor was used. Accuracy is by 97%. So that's kind of interesting. We get really, really transparent. So it's not what we say, it's done. But the next thing is how we say it. So analyzing our speech patterns, finding out if we are worried, if we are exhilarated, if we are very enthusiastic or happy. And of course, from the images, these systems are not only able to find out who we are, but also in which state of mind we are. Are we worried? Are we happy? And stuff like that. It's an old system. It's from the 60s, this facial recognition code system. You can read that up. And today you can get it from the Microsoft Marketing Cloud. I think in the Build conference it was presented, recognize 1,000 faces from a cloud operation costs like €2. And finding out not only who these persons are, but also how they are, it's like €20. Everybody can buy it. It's very democratizing. So what happens in retail, and we could read about this in the last few weeks, people are outraged that they are filmed at the store, at the cashiers, and that the shops find out who is coming. In the past, they asked you, can I have your zip code? So find out where do they live, how do people move in the city vicinity and to which supermarket they go. Now it's pretty easy. You don't have to answer to any questions. They just find out who you are, and then of course they know who's going to the supermarket, and they can cater to their needs. And of course, we have cameras everywhere. Then the systems and the supermarket, the retailer knows what we are looking at. And in the Internet of Things, the stuff that we are looking at can talk to us. So if I look at a can here in the shelf, then the can talk to me, can send me a direct message, can flash up. So all these things are already there. That's not the future. It's just what is technologically possible right now. And of course, if it's possible, then we will try it out. And if it works, then we will implement it, and this will change the future. So this is a problem, maybe for dinosaurs, maybe not for Generation Z. And always keep that in mind. That's a difference if you talk to a 40-year-old or a 16-year-old, completely different target groups, different perception of media usage. So, of course, that's the end of the world as we know it, and there's a lot of fear going on. People are afraid of this change that will come with technology. And this fear, in my view, is also fueled by media. Just an example. If you take an article like this, so this is just the factual headline. There's an AI which was programmed to do an encryption, to find out how to encrypt messages between two nodes of the system, and then this subtle subline, just two neural networks passing secret nodes without you. Now, does that sound scary? It's like if there's a conscience, it's like as if there was a conscience behind that, and the secrets, of course, are dangerous secrets for us, and we don't know them, so something is going on and we have to stop it. No, it's just a system that does what we told him to do, encrypt messages, find a language of their own. And we can see that now. There was an article last week, I think, you can find it in my Twitter timeline somehow, that as more and more systems talk to each other via agents, we have much more system-to-system traffic on the internet for years now than we have human traffic. As much more of these systems become more intelligent and talk to each other, they develop languages of their own, which is interesting because it makes it difficult for us to analyze what happened. And every time something goes wrong, then we have to look into it and find out what happened, but maybe in the near future we won't be able to find out what happened because the systems develop the language of their own, because it's more efficient for them. So, of course, unemployment will rise for a certain time. Is this a reason to be concerned? Probably so, because it will change the way our society functions and works. But on the other hand side, it's just a normal process that happens all the time. Maybe you are a handy person and sometimes you like to work at home and you have to screw something together. Then usually people use this Accu screw machine. I mean, just imagine how much time is saved by using this machine. And so, I mean, we don't need people doing that. This killed jobs. So, of course, it's just a very primitive example that we kill jobs all the time by automating things which are of no use for us. And this will happen with AI and robotics, and we have unskilled workers' jobs killed within the next 5 to 10 years, and more skilled workers' jobs, maybe jobs like mine, in the next 10 to 15 years. So I have to find out what to do then. What we can see already is the self-driving trucks. This is a Mercedes one. The German version is not allowed to drive in Germany on autobahns, but we have an American version, and this is allowed to drive in Nevada as of today. So these trucks are on the highway in Nevada, and they're bringing goods from one logistics center to another, and then it gets picked up by smaller cars, and then they go into the city vicinity, which they are not allowed to do right now self-driving, but it's only a matter of time until they will. So this is just one future which is really, really near. And if you think about that, then it becomes clear that we need new contracts because that changes a lot. We have no privacy anymore. In like 20 years, there will be virtually no privacy. There will be no room on Earth except for maybe a desert or a mountaintop or wherever you go outside of civilization where you are not tracked and traced and observed and real-time analyzed. So there's no privacy. This will change, of course, behavior. And so we will change a lot of thoughts about privacy, about freedom, maybe about ethics. It's a lot of talk going on about artificial intelligence and computer ethics, which are probably different in China than in Germany. So think about that. We talk about global systems transmitting messages in fractions of a second all the time, and then a cultural problem with the ethics behind it. So that's really interesting. So are we all going to die? Yes, sooner or later, but probably not because of artificial intelligence. These systems will help us a lot. They will improve life on this planet a lot. So my view is go with the flow. Don't be too worried, but take care what happens and use your power, use your influence. You're all well-educated people in some jobs which maybe have a connection to this field. So use your influence and try to shape this future. And it was all too much, too long, didn't read, and just keep two things in mind. In the future, all interactions will start with a virtual assistant, and it's going to be one assistant, not this many assistants as we have right now. And the second thing, which is equally important, this is why we have 2 times 1 here, adapt fast for generation Y and Z, because these people won't give you time until your systems are ready or your processes are done or your organization is built. It has to happen right now. So take care of your touch points and update them as often as possible. So if you found something interesting, then maybe we have a few minutes left to discuss. Thank you. No one? Okay. You were shaking your head when I said something. It was about computing power. Ah, okay, yes, like the car. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you don't believe that these systems can stretch time in Oh, there's a microphone coming. So, oh, sorry.
Hello? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just a little bit skeptical about the timeline.
Oh, you think it's...
It will need a little bit longer than I think you predict or expect. When I look at performance marketing today, you see what our experts call a lot of the dumb marketing, because the tools are there, but they need to get adapted and to work. And our company, which is competition of yours, we are working on chatbots, but when I really see what the systems right now can do,
Yeah.
and what time and effort we will need to get them to a level. We're currently talking about not marketing, but we're talking about service, which is easier because we have specific questions. You don't have to be really nice to the customer to get him to buy something, to persuade him to some extent.
Yeah.
And this is where we stand now. So I think it will be more than 10 years before this will be normal practice, but it will come.
Yeah, but you're probably right. I see this in our own organization. But it's not the technology that makes it slow. It's we
Yes.
as humans, and especially as our organization is built and processes we have. This is really hard.
It's more.
Yeah.
It's more the adaptation and the adaptation by the customer.
Yeah.
See, a lot of things you could do very easy today. If you do it online, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, true.
So.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Oh, there's one.
I'll say it here. It seems to me that the technological challenge will be affordable for large companies. Small companies will probably, because they're so vertical, will probably be able also to address this automatically.
Yeah.
What about middle-sized companies? I have a €100 million sized company. It sort of is the investment for me to go into that way is just huge. How can these companies answer that?
Okay, the question was how can middle-sized companies who don't have these huge research budgets go into that as fast? It's a good question. I think it's not that hard for them because a lot of stuff is done out of the cloud and provided as a service, as my example with the face recognition, for example. Get 1,000 faces recognized for €2. You don't have to do any invest, you just buy it out of the cloud, pay per use. So I think there's a lot of technology like this out there, which makes it feasible even for small and medium-sized enterprises to go into this field and explore their possibilities. But we'll see. I mean, in the end, it's probably the human factor which slows it down. Just not knowing about it, for example. Okay. I think we also have to look at the time. There are new speakers coming up. Thanks for listening. Wish you a very pleasant NOAH conference and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.